You're watching The Beer Garden, your landscape industry podcast that's best enjoyed with a beverage.
Howdy, listener. I'm Jason. Over there is Brandon, and you're listening to The Beer Garden. Thanks for tuning in. So today we're going to be chatting customer experience and satisfaction. So, if you have ever kind of broken down, why customers are leaving your company, why they are sharing poor feedback, those sorts of things, I think the easy thing to always come back to is like quality of service. We're going to probably not talk about quality of service a whole lot today. We think that's a given and something that you like, that's a whole separate podcast on how you deliver your service, those sorts of things. What we're talking today is customer experience, like how to go above and beyond. And if I had to summarize it, like how to wow a customer. So really excited to dive deep into this topic. But before we do that, I want to know what you're drinking, Brandon.
Well, I've had this one before. I haven't been to a liquor store in quite some time, and we don't have beer at grocery stores like you do in America. So it's has to be on the to-do list to get. So this was in my fridge. Papa Bear, you've seen it before.
Mm-hmm.
Half Hitch Brewing, which I think is from Cochrane. Let me double check. Sorry, unprepared. It's from Cochrane. Yeah, Cochrane, Alberta.
Nice. And I think we confirmed last time you had that half hitch is a knot, if I recall.
Isn't that it? Yep. I thought that was a kind of tie knot in your tie, but that's like Windsor and things like that. Doesn't matter. Mostly tradespeople listening. We don't wear ties too much. It's really good beer. Would recommend. Also, while I'm got the mic here, shout out to Beyond Landscaping. I have my Beyond Landscaping hat from Vancouver. Also, Corey Brewer's business. Excellent landscape company. They do construction and maintenance. And I was out in Vancouver, did a little shop tour. First time I've ever been to his shop. Really, really good organization that they run down there. And Corey's a great guy. If you're looking for work in Vancouver, look him up. Yeah, great company.
Friend of the podcast, I would even say. Corey Brewer.
I would say
podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, he one time gave a shout out on stage to Issue ID for Jason and I in front of hundreds of people
while he was accepting an award for
his own award. And I was just thinking if I can say this, but it's not like 1995 where you get like bleeped out or anything. He told everyone to give their balls a tug.
I tried to censor you, but it didn't really work.
Which is something I told him a long time ago to get something done. It was probably seen as highly inappropriate by some of the members in the audience, but
at a formal
enjoyed it.
ceremony.
Yeah. So thank you, Corey, and thanks for the hat.
Yeah, this is
send me your apparel. I'll wear it on the show.
2 episodes in a row where Brandon has had a hat from friends of the podcast, and I have yet to get one. From any of our
both
friends.
From Vancouver, both competitors actually.
Yeah, no swag for me. So send me your swag and I'll wear it. It'll be more meaningful. Brandon always wears people's swag.
I'll give you a hand-me-downs.
All right, perfect.
Sweaty old hats.
Nice. Well, today I actually don't know what I'm drinking. I am drinking from Emporium Brewing Company, the dope West Coast IPA.
Oh, dude, that's cool color. Cool right? Design, I should say.
Yeah, the can's pretty cool looking there.
Damn. You're going to have to put a seizure warning on this episode. Right.
Right. This is a Denver, Colorado brewery, Emporium Brewing Company, and I have not had their dope West Coast IPA, so I'm excited to try it. I love me an IPA. So I'm going to go ahead and crack it.
Mine's been cracked. Sorry. Early to the show.
Well, how about a cheers? to kick
Yeah.
things off.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Wi-Fi cheers.
It's nice.
Jason has a new sound effect machine. He could have worked. You have a cheers set up on that?
I don't have a cheers. I have all sorts of other stuff that I may sprinkle in. It's going to quickly turn into morning radio show, like terrible morning radio show.
Oh,
But yeah, there's like all sorts of stuff. I really like the vocal effects. So if I want to
just pepper it in randomly.
Okay.
I know you want to. I know you're eager to try it right this second, but
I am.
just
All right. Done.
All right. What are we chatting about? Customer experience. I've got a lot to say. Let's get into it here.
All right, let's dive right into it. So this is, as I mentioned at the top, a topic that both Brandon and I are pretty passionate about, and something that I've found to be like actually a lot of fun when you dive into it. This is an area to be creative because, again, we're not talking about just like improving the quality of work that you provide. That should be a given. Like we're starting there as the baseline. This is an area to get creative and to think of ways that you can go above and beyond. And so we're going to reference like a lot of resources that I would highly recommend going. Most of them are books. I would highly recommend going and reading or listening to. The first one being a great book called Be Our Guest. This is written by the Disney Institute. They like specialize in customer experience. If you've ever been to a Disney theme park, kind of what we're talking about. They go above and beyond in their experience. So they have like a few key insights from that book, Be Our Guest. We're not going to dive into like everything about the book. Go listen to it, go read it. But I just wanted to highlight a few. The first one being attention to detail. So they reference this as like one of the ways that you can really go above and beyond, attention to detail. So they emphasize that like every detail matters in creating a memorable experience. So for them in like a theme park, one of the examples that sticks out to me was like the amount of thought that went into the placement of their trash cans and how they're strategically placed around the theme park. So they had a few key rules and boundaries that they set up. One was like the trash cans should not be like easily viewable or like stand out, I should say. They might be visible, but they don't stand out from the existing kind of like theme and area. So if you're in I can't even think of any of the Disney.
You're like looking at Space Mountain.
Yeah.
It's down the way. It's beautiful. You don't like see trash cans every 100 feet all the way down the walkway or something.
Yeah, and they blend in with the scenery. So the trash can next to Space Mountain looks different than the trash can next to the Haunted Mansion. And beyond that, so like they need to kind of fit in with the experience, but also the other kind of boundary that they set is like they need to be like easily accessible everywhere. So the last thing you want when you're going through the theme park and you finish eating your churro is to have to carry around your churro wrapper for, half an hour because you can't find a trash can. So they're like abundant, but they blend into the scenery. That's a lot of thought that goes into your trash can. But that is
trash can team, probably.
Exactly. But that's just an example of like attention to detail and like really getting granular with every little piece of their park. There's a million other examples, but let's talk about some of the ways that like attention to detail might be thought about in landscaping.
Yeah, I got a couple. So, like you said, it's a given. So we'll talk about the landscaping season, the lawn care season first. We want to make straight lines on our sites with our mowing. We want to have great trimming. Those are the things that are a given. We want our base service to be good, slightly better than average, as good as we can get it, right? The things that are customer experience related when we visit the sites are things like if you remember to close all the gates or you leave a gate open. These are things that matter to customers that you may not necessarily associate with the service. You could have super straight lines, but you leave one gate open and somebody's dog gets out, the whole experience is ruined for that service, right? Another one might just be, we serviced multifamily, so lots of residential, and it's like saying hello, giving a wave, getting to know people. That goes so far above and beyond just doing the service, being friendly, so on and so forth there. The example I always gave, and what I would always look for if I was doing a site inspection, is are the guys and the crews, guys, gals, looking up above the lawn and the beds that they're servicing. So we would have like a perfectly manicured, you can just imagine this like perfectly manicured landscape. And then you look up and there's a grocery bag flapping in the tree, like not even high, like 10 feet, 12 feet in the air. It's like, you missed that. You walked right under it trimming, and there's an ugly garbage bag flapping in the tree up there. And people drive in, you know, from work that day, and they're like, at first glance, wow, it looks great. And then it's like a freaking garbage bag in the tree. It's terrible. Another one. So if we caused damage, like broke a window, these types of things happen. We terrible use of that.
I saw an opportunity and I took it.
If there's more than 20 of those per episode, I quit. I'll set the bar high. So if you cause client damage, so we would break windows, we would weed whack and mow over barbecue covers, break irrigation heads, all kinds of things we'd wreck. And the key is to get that reported back to the office fast, or back to the supervisor fast. The supervisor solves that problem ideally before the customer even notices. If it's on somebody's house and they're home, knock on the door. Have a contractor on the way to fix it, so the problem is getting solved, and try to turn it into a 5-star review. You've seen this at restaurants where the restaurant screws up your order, but they do such a good job of resolving it, and they give you gift cards, and the owner or the chef comes out to apologize. You weren't even going to leave a review before, and it was going to be a 1-star if they did nothing, but they blew you away on how they addressed their fault. And it's like, holy cow, this company's amazing. So those types of things are, to me, customer experience. Like, those are the things that are set you far beyond your competitors.
Yeah.
Do you do anything at all like that, Jason? Just kidding.
Yeah, I think all of the above that you mentioned, but also I would just say the one that I'm really passionate about, we built an entire software around this, but it's like, it is all centered around customer experience, right? Like, you and I both, before we built Issue ID, like, decided to have teams of people. Like, we built our organization to focus on the customer experience after having many of these conversations. So we had teams of people that were visiting the sites, not only to do quality control, but to find ways that we can improve that property that the customer has not even noticed or pointed out to us. So proactively, like, looking at their site, finding those opportunities, and then presenting it to the customer before they present it to us. That's customer experience. That's going above. They didn't expect you to do that. They didn't expect you to provide them with a report that says, like, hey, here's what we're noticing on your property. Here's some ways that we can make it better. Let's work together to, like, get it there. And that's constantly cited back to us as something that stands out with working with our company.
In a helpful, suggestive way too. Not just like, here's your quote again, here's a quote, sign it, follow it up. And that's something I hear when we interview for new customers too. They're angry because their last contractor never pointed anything out to them.
Totally.
You know?
Yeah. And in an effortless way, which we'll get to here in a little bit. That would have been a great transition if that was the next topic. But so cool. So that's attention to detail. The next kind of insight from Be Our Guest that stood out was personalization. So tailoring experiences to individual guests and fostering a deeper connection and loyalty. So there's tons. I wish I would have looked up a specific example from the book Be Our Guest for this one, but there's tons of ways that Disney does this. It could be as simple as, like, when you stay at a Disney resort, like having a custom, like, handwritten note on your pillow when you get back to the room, or your towel folded into a little elephant or whatever it may be. Those sorts of things. But there's lots of ways that Disney does this.
Like Starbucks with the names.
Yeah, the
like
name
on your coffee and stuff.
Yeah, that's a very simple one, easy to implement, but, like, yeah, that is personalization. I'll throw out one, actually. Like, if you sign up for Issue ID, you get a handwritten thank you card from Michelle from our team. God, I hope we're still
Totally.
doing that.
We are, but they're actually all handwritten, which
Yeah.
is kind of fun. She started off by making watercolor cards for everyone. She's like, okay, she just likes the art of it, but it was a little too much work, I think, to make custom watercolor cards for everyone.
Just a sidebar on that really quick though, because it brings up a really valid point. And I remember having this conversation with the leadership team from Issue ID, which was like, I can't remember. It came from someone's talk. I can't remember. Maybe it was Sam Altman or someone else. But like the idea of like doing things that don't scale. Like everyone's always obsessed with the idea of like, well, that idea, like, hand painting.
That's Paul Graham.
That's right. Yeah. Hand painting these cards for every single like new sign up doesn't scale. Like it's only going to take so many users. That doesn't matter. Like start with where you're at now. Worry about where you're now and do the things that don't scale. And I think the subtext of that is like oftentimes you'll find a way to scale those things or to do a version of those things at a larger scale. So just a quick sidebar there. But what are some ways that you can think of to add personalization in your landscape or snow removal business?
So this is fun because you can really template a lot of these things. For example, in our proposals, I know you do this too, but in our proposal packages, the cover page is a picture of their property. So it makes it look like it's like this marquee property. It's a great shot of it, often of the entrance sign, like the main sign to the community in our case, and that just makes your proposal really stand out. We really specialize in general, so those are like contradictory words, but we specialize across our company so that we service condo communities very well. So same equipment. The equipment is picked specifically for size and everything to service that type of property. We really try to get our crews to know residents and know board members. So know their name, know their husband's name, know their dog's name, know their grandson's name, so that when you're walking by, you can say, hey, how's Charlie doing? Or those types of things. Those comments, those are renewals. Like those comments get you renewals, right? And they make your business just stand out, and it feels good, and it's how you should probably operate. So
those things also are the reasons why customers often cite wanting to go with a smaller company where like the owner's going to be on their site. It's typically for those sorts of things because it's like they know Jim is going to be there, and he's the one that's going to ask them about their kids or their dog or whatever, and there's like a personal touch to it. Like that is something that you should scale. Like you should find a way to do that as a large company, as you have, Brandon.
Right. Yeah. So I think those are the things that kind of come to top of mind.
Cool. I have a couple. First one's like a very low hanging fruit, but always referencing your customer by name, even in templated communication. So like there's a lot of like your CRMs these days can often send out like templated text messages and those sorts of things, like automated, I should say, templated emails, text messages, etc. Like always making sure to include name in there. And I see that one missed a lot. If you are doing this with automation and you're looking at like a CRM or something like that, what you're looking for is called personalization tokens. So it's ways that you can add in like first name, last name, property name, etc. to these templated messages. And it gets missed a lot, but it's like a very low hanging fruit. So that's an obvious one, including like video in your proposals, those sorts of things. Like, again,
that's a good one. Yeah.
Like you're trying to think of ways, or I was trying to think of ways that to make these things that I did when I was really small company scale to a large company. And when I was a really small company, I was physically going on the site and presenting a proposal and speaking with all the decision makers and doing all that. And as I scaled, I kind of stopped doing a lot of that. Partially out of necessity because we were doing more proposals, we had less time. but also because I found that a lot of customers didn't want to do that anymore. They didn't want to meet on the site. They didn't want to take time out of the day, but they still wanted that personal touch, and video was a great way to do that. And be able to like give them that face-to-face interaction without actually being face-to-face.
Yeah. What, like this is like, to me, this is the most important part of this podcast. Probably this is how you charge another $20 per hour for your service.
Yeah.
For what you're doing, right?
Totally.
You don't have to make straighter lines. You don't have to make your actual service better, improve your customer experience. And these things that we're saying, imagine how easy they are once they're just in the process, right?
Yeah.
Like once they're just built in, now your proposals have a cover page with your customer's thing on it, and it just boosts the perceived value. I've been talking to companies about this and doing little coaching, consulting things on this, and it's amazing how few people think about this customer experience and the process, and then just start with a low-hanging fruit, easy stuff.
Yeah.
Some of this stuff is so easy, and it boosts your value and sets you apart from your competitors so much. It's how you charge 80 instead of 60 or 100 instead of 80 bucks an hour, right? Yeah.
One year, we hired a professional photographer to go to like 3 of our marquee properties, like our big contracts, and take professional photos. Nowadays, like I wouldn't even hire a professional photographer. Like your iPhone is just as good as a professional photographer, but we hired a professional photographer.
You're going to get some hate about that.
I know. They went around and took photos of the site, like freshly manicured. We did like big annual installations at these properties. So they got all these sweet photos of the flowers, sun setting in the background, all this stuff. And then we sent an album of those to the board and the property manager. And for all 3 properties, we sent them one large framed image of like one of the best images from their property. Cool. And very small in the corner had our company logo as well on that image. And sure. At all 3 properties, those photos are still hanging in the lobby of their buildings. So
awesome.
That's like that. And an added advantage of that is like my logo is now in the lobby of all 3 of those buildings as well. So
that's awesome. That's a great idea. I never knew you did that.
Yeah, that was
Never heard of that before.
I can't recall who gave me that idea because I don't think it was an original idea. Someone gave me that idea, but
that reminds me of like farmers. Like every farmer's house I have come from a farming family.
Yeah,
doesn't sound like it by what I just said. They always had like an aerial view photo of the farm.
My parents have one on their wall. Yeah,
there you go. Yeah, it reminds me of that.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on. Let's turn the page, if you will, to the last insight from Be Our Guest.
Oh my God.
That one was even appropriate.
That was really good, that one.
Thanks.
Nice job.
So final insight from Be Our Guest, continuous improvement. So Disney's commitment has a commitment to constantly refine their process and ensure they consistently exceed guests' expectations. So they make this, the key thing here is like they make this a team-wide thing. Like it's part of the fabric of their culture. We've tried to do that at ACA as well. I can't say we do it as well as Disney, but like those 2 words that I said in there, exceed expectations, that is one of our core values at A Cut Above. And so we try to live by that and try to create a culture around like coming up with new ideas to be better. Like just because you could do this exercise once and go through and figure out these things, like eventually, like I hate to tell you this, but like you're going to do all those things and eventually they become the norm. And you've got to always be outdoing yourself. So always trying to raise the bar. So what are some ways that we could do that in our own businesses?
Yeah, for me, it's first about making it like part of your culture. Like people have to think this way. You don't want to have to do it all yourself. It starts with the owner and holding the bar high, but you want to build a culture around this where you're always trying to improve things. And having a framework to follow really helps. So what that means is just like a simple system where you're checking in on it every week. You're asking for recommendations constantly. You're taking action on these things constantly. So the process itself becomes the norm, right? So we used EOS, which is not necessarily a framework specifically for continuous improvement, but it does lend itself really well to it. So it lets you put issues in and talk about them, and it makes that very easy. Lean is the one that Lean or Six Sigma or these types of things are what people hear a lot more often, and those are great systems to look into for this. So I think one of the challenges that I had was explaining to people how ridiculously small of improvements I want them to make and to focus on. So I'm talking about like moving a sign that is already on the wall up 6 inches higher so it's more visible from the other side of the room. You know, it's like something that small is going to save people, 2 seconds a day. There's an awesome book called 2 Second Lean on this. And it's just things like that. And once they see the leadership team doing these things and talking about them, eventually you'll get over it seeming ridiculous, and it'll just be part of your business. And you'll start to really see that, seconds turn into minutes, turn into hours, kind of a thing. And it just becomes a fun part of the business to build it and improve it.
Cool. Yeah. And I would just add like reward growth and education. So, and you just said it, like build a system to do so. Like for us, we talked about this in one of the previous episodes with the standardized pay. Like you can earn more of a base wage if you go get like a certification or you do one of those things, like something to better yourself. Right. And customer service and customer experience is a big part of that. Like you want to go, no one's done this yet, but if any of my employees are listening, you want to go like learn at Disney University and take their course and do that whole thing, submit that to our management team and they'll approve it for you to go. You'll pay for it and we'll reimburse you if you actually go through the course and you pass the course and you come back and bring those skills to our company. So that's like
sorry to interrupt, but like we've had episodes and talked to crew leaders and people that want to move up in the company before. We've referenced that a few times in past episodes. This is like a perfect example.
Yes.
If you are a new person or not, and you just want to work your way up in your trades business and your landscape business, just start talking, go read a book on lean, make a list of like short, easy improvements. You don't need to bring anything that is going to like blow everyone's mind. One of the ones we made with this is going to sound stupid that we didn't just like do this from the beginning, but like we started parking our trucks nose in instead of backed in because we use ramp trucks. And so then we could load them a little bit faster. So we didn't have to pull the truck out into the yard to load them up.
Right.
And it reduced congestion of crews getting out. Like that's a big one to me. That's a big change, so a great way to show some initiative is just like thinking of these things, make a list of 10 things, show your boss, say, hey, I want to do this. I don't know. That would blow me away if someone did that. Yeah,
totally. So continuous improvement, that was the last insight from Be Our Guest. Before we move on from this segment where we're kind of highlighting, the power of exceptional customer experience and things that you can do within that customer experience realm, I want to reference another resource here, another book called The Effortless Experience. And basically, like, again, I would highly recommend going and listening to or reading this book. But this book focuses on reducing customer effort, like the effort that it takes to work with your company. And that will automatically increase loyalty. So research indicates that minimizing the effort customers must exert to resolve issues is more effective than trying to delight them. So it's really interesting because we just talked about like all these ways that you can delight them. I think both are important, but if you're just doing all these extra little flashy sort of things, but it's a pain in the ass just to like book service with you, or if they do have a problem, it's a pain in the ass to get that resolved. None of these other little flashy things matter. They like forget about that entirely. So like make it really, really easy to work with you, to like book services with you, to get on your schedule, to get a proposal, to get a bid, to solve problems if they do arise. Like that effort, you really should be thinking about that effort that your customer has to put in. And I would highly recommend that book. They go very deep on that, but definitely something that I just wanted to highlight there. And yeah, anything to add?
No, I hadn't thought of it from that perspective. Like it seems, I'm sure, like it seems obvious, but that's really important that be the top kind of thing you dive into.
Totally.
So,
And that's why I
for
wanted to highlight that in that section, because both of those things work with each other or can work against each other. So an example of that is like we just implemented a new thing this year that I was in charge of that was like kind of a wow factor little project that I was working on. And it was just a way to kind of create that personalization and like attention to detail and kind of going a little bit above and beyond. And basically what it was is like if you signed up for a recurring package with us at the start of the season, you would get hand delivered from one of our account managers a little succulent, like a tiny little succulent in a pot. And the account manager would do that when they're coming to your house.
I don't like that word.
Their first site inspection.
It's like when people say moist.
Right. Along with it was a card signed by like the crew that is actually going to be serving your property. And in this card, it was just like, hey, we're your crew. Here's the actual individuals that are going to be serving your site. Like, thank you so much for using a cut above. We're excited to work with you. And the crew is asking in that card, like, please, we're going to send you a survey after every single service. Like, please give us feedback on how we're doing, because good or bad, that's what's going to help us like provide better service on your property. It would mean a lot to us if you would actually give us that feedback. So, and that was kind of the objective of this for us internally, was we wanted to make sure we were getting a higher percentage of customers like giving us feedback on these feedback surveys that we're sending out. So kind of a cool thing. We got lots of good feedback from that. But where I was talking about like these things working against each other, like that's an extra little like wow factor sort of thing, right? But like we did have one customer who had a not great experience. They didn't like, they got missed. They didn't make it onto our schedule the first week that they requested service. And then they got this succulent and it just came across as like tone deaf, right? It's like, dude, like
Right.
we signed
It's like
up.
salt in the wound.
Yeah, exactly. So like, that's why like both these things are important. They have to have an effortless experience, and then you have to also wow them and do all these things that go above and beyond.
And then the succulent.
Yes, the succulent. Cool.
You can put that on loop with your new machine there. Moving on.
Don't give me any ideas. Moving on, let's talk about another resource. And this one's going to be fun. So this one, the reason I wanted to bring this resource up is because it kind of gives a framework to start thinking about how to implement these sort of things. It's like a framework to consider how to implement some of these different ideas. And it's from a book called Building a Story Brand. So building a story brand really is about like, the idea of the book is like how you brand your company and how you message the things that you do, which are important in creating a good experience. But the reason I wanted to bring it up here as part of a customer experience conversation is the key point that they make in that book, where most companies fail, is when they're messaging to their clients, they try to make their company the hero of the story. So imagine it like a movie, like you're presenting like a movie trailer. Like, watch ads with companies out there. They oftentimes try to like make their own, like make themselves the hero of the story. The point that they make in building a story brand is that that's backwards. Your customer is the hero of the story, and you need to position them as the hero of the story. And when you do that, you start to take a very customer-centric approach to all the things that you do. Your company is the guide. So in every great movie, there's a guide, right? So in Star Wars, for example, you have Luke, who's the hero of the story, and then he's got Yoda, who's his guide, right? And he's like guiding him through this entire process. So that is your company's meant to be the guide and to guide this hero through a journey. So the hero has a problem. So recognizing that problem, and they have a whole like framework for determining what that problem is. You're going to default to like their problem is they need their lawn mowed, but like in actuality, it's probably a bit deeper than that. What we found is our customer's problem is that they have a bunch of things on their schedule that are eating up their time. And that's like the villain, right? Lawn mowing happens to be one of them. So we're going to introduce ourselves as the guide to remove those to-dos from their to-do list and free up their time. So we're going to give them a plan, and then we're going to call them to action on that plan. And then that's going to result in hopefully success. So it's like a story arc. And that's the whole concept of building a story brand. The main reason I wanted to highlight that is, making your customer the hero. And when you start to look at it through that lens, you'll start to come up with all sorts of creative ways that you can wow them through the process.
I like that. Yeah, I've read a little bit about that book, or I read a little bit of that book, but I didn't finish it. Heard you talk about it quite a bit, so really good for branding as well, like you said.
Yeah, very good for branding and your messaging. You want to move on to the next one?
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. Yet another resource here. Going back to Disney, though, this is another book called Disney U. Disney U is also like an actual institute, or Disney Institute, I guess is what it might be called. The book is called Disney U. But essentially, the kind of overarching idea of this book and of Disney U is just emphasizing the importance of employee training in delivering the consistent customer experience. So this like really breaks down like, how do you build that culture around providing a great customer experience? And the answer is like having a really dialed training program that focuses specifically on customer experience and customer satisfaction and all these things that we're talking about. So some key lessons from that book are value-based leadership. So Disney instills a strong sense of purpose and values in its employees, and which leads to a cohesive and motivated workspace. So they're really like focused on like having values be part of the fabric of your organization. You've heard us talk about that on a lot of episodes. Another kind of key takeaway is empowerment. So employees are actually empowered to make decisions that enhance the guest experience. So we've talked about this in other episodes too, but like I always like the concept of like setting up guardrails, right? Like everyone's like, oh, well, I can't just have my employees, like, I can't have a customer service rep just deciding like, we're going to implement this new strategy, whatever. Well, you can, and I would argue you should, but just set the guardrails. Like you can make decisions that impact the company up to $1,000 or whatever it may be, right?
Yeah,
so
it could be $50.
Totally.
Like, whatever it is, yeah.
So that on the fly, that empowers your employees to make decisions that are going to create an exceptional customer experience. And if they've been trained to where like that is the primary objective, to create a really great customer experience, and now they have a tool belt, like up to X amount of dollars or whatever the guidelines are you set, like now they're empowered to actually take action on it. So
I think this point is really important, because I've experienced this before where I put this in place and my employees were surprised that they could do this or that we wanted to do this. And you may run a business where you could value profits over customer experience. So if there's let's say that there's an issue, I'll go back to a restaurant, for example. I'm not happy with how my steak is cooked or how my meal came out. Does the company just kind of say, sorry, that's how it is or whatever, or they maybe cook it again and bring it to me? Or do they like comp my meal, give me, $10 for next time, this type of thing that actually costs them even more money? That's two very different directions that those employees have received in training or been empowered to resolve, right? And so I remember our admin person, she would handle a lot of the customer service requests, and we set these. We set it on dollar-based guardrails like that. So it was, I think it was $100. She could make the decision. If it's not going to cost us more than $100, or you have the authorization to spend up to $100 to resolve an issue, you can do that without asking anybody. The next, eventually got up to supervisors, crew leaders. Our ops manager could make decisions up to 5 or 10 grand kind of thing. But those numbers surprised them, especially the admin person. I remember them kind of thinking like, oh, you can just send a person who we wrecked a barbecue cover, we mowed or weed whacked their barbecue cover, which is $50 from Canadian Tire or whatever, is like, you can just send them it. You don't need to try and figure out if we did it or if somebody else did it or whatever. You can just send them $50, send them $100. And they were surprised with how much money they could spend to do that. You know, and just the point being that your people may be thinking that they should opt to try to save that $50 or $100 and put it into the profits instead and bug you with the problem. So it's really good to set these kind of systems and guardrails.
Yeah, I love that. That's empowerment defined.
There you go.
Yeah. And then the last kind of takeaway from Disney U is, again, this was mentioned in the other Disney book as well, but continuous learning. Like, this is the thing, the engine that keeps this building without you. So ongoing training, ensuring that employees are always improving and adapting to new challenges. So yeah, I think like that pretty well covers that section. Do you agree?
I agree.
Cool. Let's talk about a few just kind of tactical strategies to elevate customer satisfaction. So we mentioned like personalization, for example. We gave a bunch of like actual examples of how to do that. One that I wanted to highlight that I feel that we've done pretty well at ACA is proactive communication. So I mentioned like finding things on site, like issues that you can improve upon to make the site better, those sorts of things. That's an example of proactive communication, but also just like reaching out to remind the customer of their scheduled service time. Like we've set up like an automated system to do that. Again, it's personalized, so it's name and all those sorts of things included. But the one that I really like is like reaching out after the service as well to check in on like how you did before the customer like leaves a review or anything like that. Like, you're getting ahead of it. So I think those things go a long way, and helps to like address any concerns before they become a bigger issue. Would you agree?
Totally. Yeah. That's a good point.
Cool. What else? What do you got?
I mean, I think that's more or less it for me, I would say.
Cool. I might add a couple really quick, which is one is just make sure that you're creating like an actual feedback loop here. If you're like actually implementing a system like this and you're really focused and truly making a commitment to improving your customer experience, make sure that you're not doing this from gut. Like, collect feedback on how you're doing. So request feedback from your customers. We do it after every single service in that post-service kind of follow-up, just to say, how did we do? And we give them like a 1 to 5 star rating that they can just quickly
I guess
leave.
we do that too. I kind of forgot. Like, we do send NPS, Net Promoter Score surveys, not after every service in our case, or just for what we do. It's a little slightly different, but we do track those types of things.
Yeah. So collect that feedback and then actually take action on it. That's the big one. Like, if you're going to collect this feedback and someone leaves you negative feedback, like, they need to feel heard. If they leave you positive feedback, they should feel heard as well. So make sure that you're responding to reviews, that you're taking action on the things that you can improve. Like, this is really valuable when your customers are actually sharing with you, like, what they think of your company and your service. Like, that's a really, really unique opportunity that you can take action on.
Feedback is a gift, as they say.
It is a gift. And then finally, I'd just say, like, make sure that you're consistent across all your touch points, especially in a service business like landscaping. You're going to have multiple people oftentimes interacting with the customer. So that could be, initially the salesperson. Well, initially it could be your website and how things are communicated on your website. Then it could be a salesperson, a customer service rep,
front desk person.
Yeah, front desk person, admin, the people on site, obviously. Like, there needs to be consistency through this entire process. And that's where it comes, like, it's really important to map out like your customer journey. We could do a whole episode on customer journey, or like in technology, some people might call that like a user path, those sorts of things. User path would be more specific to like how they use your product, where a customer journey would be the whole thing from
Yeah.
initial touch point to finish.
We just finished a user path meeting
Like
an hour ago on Ish ID. That's why it's got
Right.
this fresh on the mind.
Yeah. So yeah, just make sure that, you know, that entire every step of that process reflects your company's commitment to excellence and exceeding expectations. Want to talk about some common pitfalls?
I would love to. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I think
almost threw in a trombone there. Common pitfalls.
Oh, what you said trombone, and it reminded me that you just bought a new drum set.
I
I'm
did.
very excited for you to get that.
Yeah, in probably our next episode, unless I change the way that I'm recording, you might see an electronic drum set behind me.
Cool. Can you improve our intro or play us some sick beats
Maybe
sometime?
Maybe I'll come up with
Doesn't
something.
have to be next time, but
Okay.
is the thing announced yet?
The thing?
Like, trying to say that, well, I guess you have the power to edit this out if I say something I shouldn't. The show that's coming up, is that publicly?
Oh, it is.
Public knowledge?
It is, yeah. So yeah, I guess thanks. Cue me up for a little shameless plug here. Yeah, so if you are an early listener, you probably on one of our first episodes heard a little bit about my story, which was I used to play with a band called the Epilogues. We haven't played together for about 10 years now, maybe a little less than 10 years.
This is it was a big band though. Like they were signed by Sony. There's a poster of them on Jason's wall. Jason used to have emo hair. Definitely look up that. That's my favorite part about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't played together for many, many years, and we are playing a reunion show in Denver at the end of July 27th, at the Underground Music Showcase in Denver. So it's an amazing music festival that I highly recommend checking out anyways. It's like a 3-day festival, but we'll be playing July 27th there for a reunion show. We're pretty pumped about it for the 25th anniversary of the Underground Music Showcase, actually.
Hell yeah. I'll be there too. I'm not famous beyond this beer garden podcast, but I will bring budget to buy you some beers if you're there. Come say hello.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll hang out at the
We can
beer
heckle
garden.
Jason.
Perfect.
I'm
Thanks
excited. I've never seen you play on stage.
I know.
I didn't get to know Jason until after he was famous.
I don't think you've ever seen me play period, have you?
No.
Like videos, maybe. Oh, I can think of the time.
Actually, you played a wooden box.
Yeah, you heckled me in the playing a wooden box.
Which that freaking slapped. Yeah, you played that box like a, I want to say like a street performer. Like they're really good at playing buckets and stuff. Probably better than that.
Yeah. It was a cajon, but that's the technical term for it. But yeah, played with a guitar player, I think, and someone else.
Jason played his
randomly at a hotel.
All right. Common pitfalls. How to avoid them. So I think that I have definitely fallen into this pit.
Same.
Fall. Over promising and under delivering. So in this usually happens when you're trying to close a deal, or it's, you're in the sales process, and it's not bad today, but there was a time where we were growing fast and we were frankly barely delivering on the basics, and for me, I was still like, this is the best company in the world, and we're killing it, and we're going to be, I was just selling them that we were going to do everything, and then we didn't deliver on that. And that's a very bad initial experience for your customer right off the bat. They're like, they probably paid more for your company than others, and then you didn't deliver. If you're a business owner, you've hired people that have done this to you. They oversold themselves in the interview process, and then they don't even know how to start a line trimmer.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's probably the biggest one, honestly. That's like the easiest to do and the most common, and it just will so quickly kill your customer experience.
Yeah.
Another one I can think of is neglecting employee engagement. So what I mean by that is like thinking that you can be the one to just like implement and drive this across the finish line. Like this is a culture thing. Like this has to be part of the fabric of who you are as a company. Um, Otherwise, it won't work. Like again, we talked about the important for consistency across the employee journey or the customer journey. Like if you're the one driving everything, inevitably, the second that that customer interacts with someone that's not you, there's a risk of it falling off. So,
Right.
um,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, there's one more is just we talked about earlier feedback loops and things like that, and ignoring feedback is one of the pitfalls, and it's surprisingly easy to say that and hard to do for some reason as a business owner.
totally.
You're very busy, but you just nobody drinks the Kool-Aid as much as the business owner does, and you start getting feedback from a customer or an employee, but maybe a customer, and it's like quickly chalked up to just being like, oh, that's just Shirley, or Karen maybe is a better name.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's just how that individual is. And while that might be the case, they're going out of their way to give you something valuable there, no matter how annoying or hurtful it could be. So don't ignore it and talk about it. Yeah.
I see this a lot beyond owners too. Like I see this, I can think of staff that I've had over the years that have struggled with this, and I get it. I understand why they do, especially if they come from an infield role and they've been advanced into like a management role. I see that all the time, like when that happens, because their experience has always just been in the field, like getting the job done, efficiency, all these sorts of things, especially if you haven't built like a really solid culture around customer experience and down to like the technician level, then it's really easy to, when you're in charge, you're the person taking this feedback, whether you're a production manager, an account manager, whatever it may be, to kind of write it off and be like, oh no, I see the crew like did what they're supposed to do, they did their job, and like you're
Right.
ignoring what the customer is telling you. Like sure, maybe they did do their job, but like the customer is sharing that they had a bad experience, and your job is to make sure the customer has a great experience. So
Right.
whether they did their job or not, like it's your job to make this an exceptional experience.
Own it and then turn that into a 5-star Google review, right?
Totally. 100%. The best employees do. Cool. Last call.
Yeah.
We're gonna do.
I thought that means we drink our drink.
Oh yeah. Well, it means speed round too, but here, cheers. Let's have a drink.
Cheers.
I'm just realizing how silly the first question of our speed round is going to be for this one, but that's okay.
I'll let you do the asking. I
Okay.
guess.
All right. What is the best resource or content on this topic?
So for me, I never took this very seriously until I joined a peer group, coaching group. BTA is the one, we mentioned it before. It's where Jason and I met each other. I don't know, 8 years ago or 9 years ago or something like that. So yeah, I would just say that organization, they talked about it. And then actually you probably hammered it home for me more than anybody else. Always talking about branding, like your company is light years better branded than mine. Customer experience is much more process driven on your side. Like because you have such a high volume of customers, it needs to be like to make your business as dialed as it is, versus mine. Like we can be have a lot more of that personalization, I guess, without it being like built into our process, because we just have fewer customers, larger contracts. So you taught me a lot about this specific topic, actually.
I wish I had a sound effect for heartfelt appreciation.
All right.
I did want to mention,
Make a guy blush.
I feel like every episode we mention BTA, but I wanted to mention that BTA stands for Breakthrough Academy. We always say BTA because we know what it
yeah.
means, but nice.
Yeah, we're not paid by them, but Danny, if you want to pay us, we'll take it.
Yeah, we will. Definitely recommend them. What is the best advice you've received or biggest win you've had?
Yeah, for me, it made it a lot easier because we were so niche down and focused. So I'm not sure if that wasn't necessarily advice received, but the biggest coincidental win that we got was that we only had one customer type to focus on building a great experience for. And if we had done landscape construction and we were tree guys and we, did pest control and yada, 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 those are all different customer experiences that you could refine the heck out of and make really, really good. And you should. So it's just easier when you're niched.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like in our business, we have to almost think of, they're very similar, but we have to think of two different kind of customer experience journeys because we do single family residential and homeowners associations.
Right.
Nice. Good one.
More work.
Yeah. What is the biggest blunder you've made or seen others make?
I alluded to it earlier, but just not listening to my staff early enough. So I was just caught up in my own world about our business and that we could just keep growing and growing and growing. And that transition that happens from when you're the owner and you know every customer and you don't really need a process for customer experience because you're the only person, you curate the whole thing. And then you start growing and it has to be passed down, not only the attitude, but you want a consistent approach and process to it. Like I screwed that up massively when we were first going through that. And I had staff on my team telling me that. The final one was Riley, he's been a longtime staff member, and he just came to us and told us, hey, this isn't working. Something has to change, and had an idea. And it helped to shape the future of the business. Like it helped to shape our structure and how we managed to grow a big business while keeping that tight customer connection. So
nice.
Yeah. Shout out Riley.
Yeah.
Thanks, buddy.
Friend of the podcast, Riley.
Yep. That's right.
Cool.
Yeah. So now what's your best resource content?
I'm going to cop out and just summarize every resource that we already talked about in this episode. So
that was StoryBrand, Disney, Be Our Guest, and Disney U. That's the university one.
Yep, and the Effortless experience. So
cool.
Be Our Guest by Disney Institute, Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller, The Effortless Experience by Matthew Dixon, and Disney U by Doug Lip.
If I only have time to read one of those, which one?
If you're focusing on this topic, Be Our Guest.
Okay.
Yeah, and quickly followed by The Effortless Experience, because as we mentioned, those two are going to balance each other out.
Okay. Best advice you've received or the biggest win that you've had?
Biggest win we've had is just improving our renewal rate. So we really focused on these things, like improving the customer experience. So I can think of a specific year where this was our primary focus when I went away and did my strategic planning off on my own and brainstormed in a cabin. I almost said cannon.
Ayahuasca journey.
Yeah. This was the primary focus, and it was everything. We were overhauling everything from you were talking about branding. This is when we came up with the time concept and how we would message that, down to how we do it and implement it in the day-to-day operations. And eventually by implementing all these things, we were able to get our renewal rate consistently holding at a 93% renewal rate.
Damn, son.
So the primary reason that customers leave us is because they move or they die.
You advertise that as the end of your customer journey, and then you die. Wow. All right. The biggest blunder that you've made or seen others make?
Not creating a culture around this. So when I first was trying to implement this stuff, I was that guy that was like, I'm just going to like do this and implement this and pull this across the finish line. I'm going to make it part of an SOP. And then that's it. Like there was no culture around it. It wasn't part of our core values, and it failed miserably and crashed and burned. Like it's got to be your whole company. And you've got to revisit it regularly, because as you grow, your company culture changes.
Yeah, absolutely. And people get further and further apart. Like there's so many crews going different places. People don't like mingle as much, or whatever you want to call it, mix as much.
Yeah, like candidly, we're in that period right now. Like we're in a big growth spurt, and you can see it in our company now. We're having to rethink like how we do these things correctly, because it's not as dialed as it once was, and so it's just a iterative process.
Things break. Yeah, sucks.
Yeah.
Cool. Rate these beers.
Yeah, what do you think?
I've got to get to ramen. I'm going for ramen tonight. Ramen
right.
Arashi in Calgary. Just giving shout outs today. No sponsors still. You bastards.
Still. He said with
I've never asked any. It's quite a pitch to just assume that they watch a ramen restaurant watches this, or a beer maker. But yeah, going to ramen with my friend Ed and Michelle.
Nice.
Can't wait.
Well, hurry up and rate your beer then, so you can go eat some ramen. Slurp up some ramen.
I give Papa Bear from Half Hitch 8 succulents out of 10.
Oh, all right. Nice. On the succulent scale now. Cool. From Emporium Brewing, the dope West Coast IPA, I'm going to give this a 7.25 out of 10.
It's very low for Jason.
It's good. It's like it's not a very big beer, and I've been into bigger beers lately. You know what I would call this based off of
What do you mean by that? Is that some fancy beer guy term? That's a tall boy.
Alcohol content, not big like physical size. Alcohol content, like the bigger the beer, the higher the alcohol content.
No one says that.
Yes, I do.
No,
you know what I would say? You've been learning lately. So what I would say is this is actually, for being a hoppy IPA, this is a very sessionable beer.
I don't like that.
And what I mean by that is the alcohol content is such that you can drink multiple, and the flavor profile is such, like the malt is more prominent in this. It is hoppy, but the malt is more prominent. And
I don't like to get that. I don't like to get so intimate with my beers.
You don't like to get intimate at all.
Get it in you, you know?
Yeah, I know.
Is it something I like or don't like? It's as simple as that. Based on your description, I don't like it.
It translates to so many things in your life. I don't like to get intimate. I just like to get it in you.
Come on. Edit that out. Terrible.
Are we done?
Yeah, I've got to go get some ramen in me.
All right.
Double noodles. Pork belly. It's my style. Tonkatsu.
Right. We got to cut this off before it takes a dark turn. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Really appreciate it, as always. And we'll see you next time.
Okay.
Cheers.
Bye-bye. Cheers.
Thanks for tuning in to The Beer Garden. Please find us on YouTube at The Beer Garden Podcast and subscribe, like, and enable notifications.